do you prefer?
You could switch.
Board games, board games, it's what we're talking about. Board games, I'm not gonna shout. I am starting off this streaming with a little bit of singing, and over there you can become the person known as Antoinette Mason.
Oh.
And we're going to talk about reviewing, and there's going to be, a bit of singing, and we're
Yeah.
going to talk about your obligations,
Mhm.
which could carry on in these situations. And I'm just trying to go through this. Um, Sorry about this. It's going on in another page. This is terrible. But we're
Hmm.
talking about board games. Boards. There we go. I found a page. Board games.
Yay.
Board games is what we're talking about. Board games are viewing. I'm not gonna shout. Hello, hello everyone, and it is Xate and
Morning.
Mihai Gorgescu.
Yay.
Lovely to
Gorgescu.
see you. And morning, Rob. This is lovely to see you. And yeah, the suggestion is that we might become Antoinette if we are really good. Yeah, look at this. This is kind of the level that you could aspire to become. Like, like this face, this with these headphones. And I think I've decided that there is actually something going on with this headphones. I think what's because we were talking earlier on that I've had a bit of an earache. And I think that the cause is these headphones. So I think I need to buy some more expensive headphones. Anyway, so there's Joan's family game nights. Hello, Gavin. Hello, Alex. And hello, Oliver. There's your
Oliver.
sometimes co-host. I won't say your co-host because
Yeah. My co-host in crime.
but like you do other crime yourself. I mean, you are Antoinette Mason. You are the Board Game Inquisitor, Lady Inquisitor on Twitter, and you do videos. You do podcasting. You do a wee bit of writing. You do all sorts of things. How would you like to talk about yourself? Tell people a little bit about who you are.
About who I am. Okay. I'm Antoinette. I'm a lady who lives in Ireland who really likes board games. And while going through some mental health struggles, decided it would be a really great idea to put myself out on the internet and give myself a whole bunch of stress and anxiety about it, but also have a lot of fun, meet a lot of really nice people, and got to play lots of really cool board games. So yeah, that's where it's at.
And oh yeah, nobody does expect the Antoinette Inquisition.
That's the point.
It suggests that they might expect it if you kind of name yourself that.
It doesn't have a good as ring to it as the Board Game Inquisition, to be fair, if I put my actual name out there. And I think for a while when I started the channel, I was like, I don't think I want to put my real name out in the world. I was just going to be the Board Game Inquisition without being a person behind it. But that doesn't work really well, actually, because you're you regardless of what name you've put on it. So I was like, fine, I'm Antoinette.
Were you just worried about sharing? I mean, look, it is a thing that happens. Hopefully, not in the board game industry. But hello, Jess. It's lovely to have you. Xates, hasn't put their legal name out there and has like a sort of gamer identity, and it's like you kind of need to do that. But like, were you worried about someone? I know, like, this is horrible, but stalking you or tracking you down or being like, you'd get. I don't know why people would do that.
I don't know either. I'm not gonna lie, I wasn't worried about that kind of thing. I think I'm in the wrong demographic for the kind of strange stalkery stuff. But I thought just that, I don't know, there was something about, like, when you don't know what you're doing and you're like, how much information should I put out there in the first place? So I was like, I won't put out a lot, and then I can always decide to put out more, I suppose, over time as it became kind of necessary. So that's kind of how I approach it, because, you know, it's not like I knew anything about making videos or making reviews. I was just going, this goes out on YouTube, God knows who sees it. So I was just like, we'll keep it simple, and then see what happens. Oh,
that seems like a great approach. Of course, we've not even said the title of this show or what's going to happen, so we've like just started launching straight into this. This show is going more and more off the rails every like episode. I mean, I remember back in the day, if you look at the first episode, I was actually on topic, and it lasted an hour exactly. If you look at like the first 3 or 4 episodes, I was like, yeah, this is going to last exactly an hour. But I am Bez. It is bedtime in some countries. We are blethering about board games, specifically about board game reviews. Today, we're going to talk about what is a reviewer. We're going to talk about so much about the obligations, which we did talk about last time, but we will like wrap up, see if we've got anything more to say on that subject. We'll talk a little about relationships, how to get started, why we do this, which there's just so much to talk about. Let's start off talking about the brilliant thing. What's the little thing which is brilliant?
What's the little thing that's brilliant? I think what's brilliant at the moment, and maybe it's not a little thing, but it's furniture. I think there's something about this time of year when it starts getting dark and you're like, I'm going to be spending a lot of time inside. You kind of want your house to be cozy too. So it's like the time of year where you're like, I just want to sit in a comfy chair or something like that. And so I'm very grateful for furniture right now, having somewhere cozy to curl up and try and be happy in, you know. I think there's something about how you decorate your space helps your mind and your mood a lot of the time. So I think we should pay more attention to the inside of our houses.
Oh, that's a lovely thing. And having a sofa that you can snuggle up on, or just, you know, even if it's just you, having a blanket on it and then huddling up on. Yes. I call it huddling when it's just one person. And
I like that.
When, you know, you've got to bed, you know, having a lovely bed. And I like a bed with a headboard so you can kind of rest about. But this bed that I've got, you know, it has a headboard, but then it's kind of bitty. So if you lean against it without like putting cushions, because of all the rails, it kind of jabs into my neck, which isn't great. But no, free chairs for furniture, says Rob.
Yay!
And
furniture.
Hello, Chris. It is lovely to see you. And yeah, there's my main Chris. This is the Chris that's. I'm sorry, Chris Winterburn. Man, I feel really bad saying this now, but you know, I like Chris more. But yeah, and Jess wants to give a shout out to their big pink pig in their office. I don't know if this comes under like furniture. This sounds like more like, do you sit on this pig?
Yeah.
Oh man,
that sounds fantastic. I would love a big pink pig. That'd be great.
I'm sorry, Chris. I do love you as well, but I just love Chris with a K even more. Oh. Yeah. Anyway, so Jess does sit on this giant pink pig. So there you go. You can have novelty furniture. Yeah.
Good.
And so yeah. Anyway, so yeah. I'm very biased. Yeah. To be fair, I do see this Chris every week. Like if I see you in real life more often, I just like you more.
You're
and like
digging a hole. You're digging yourself a bigger hole as you keep talking.
Yeah, I'm look, I as I say, like, can I say anything? Yeah, I'm not. I'm just. Let's just move on. Recent highlights. Living like fancy in the sights. Recent highlights. Playing games and other delights. Recent highlights.
Ooh, recent highlights. Right, what have I been playing lately? It's been kind of busy, so I'm gonna go with the new Stefan Feld title, Bonfire, which just came out, I think, last week. This is the first time in ages I've had like a brand new game that literally just came out. So quite excited about that. And it is a game where are I could try and explain it. I've only played it once, but already it won't make sense. You know those games where you explain it, it's like this still means nothing. So there's like a giant bonfire, and you're trying to keep the fires in the bonfire by making offerings to the guardians. But really, it is a game about you do the thing, but to do the thing, you need to get the thing first. But to get that thing, you need to get the other thing from over there. So it's like the. That's what I'm calling it at the moment.
It sounds like it's a Stefan Feld game, but instead of being point salad where you can go off and do all these different things, it's like, okay, you've got to do a bunch of things, but you need to do them in sequential order.
Kind of, yeah, exactly. It's definitely a game where everything feels very connected. So if you want to do this, but there are numbers of ways to win. And it's actually really pretty, which is kind of unusual for Euro games. They don't often have like art and design, but this one's very nice looking. So I'm looking forward to playing more of it, because the first time I played it, I was like, what's going on? You know, that way when you finish a game and you go, aha, I know what that was about now. So I need to play it again while I still remember. So this weekend, hopefully, I get to play more Bonfire while I still vaguely know what I'm doing. What about you? What have you been playing?
So I played 2 games last night. We played Kitty Cataclysm. I made dinner. I have some photos to share. I wanted to. Oh man, there's
cat.
So cats while I was walking around. Oh, little birds. I don't know what bird this is. I tagged Elizabeth Hargrave in a cheeky move to say, hey, I wonder how often Elizabeth Hargrave gets tagged to.
I did.
You know, I did. Yeah.
That's brilliant.
I mean, is this a pigeon? Is this a baby pigeon? I wonder if it is. I don't know.
If only we could try the Wingspan app that would identify what the card was and tell you what bird it is.
And this is while I was running around, and yesterday I took a 2-minute break. I know these are seagulls, and obviously fun bits of other things. Oh yes, and Chris has taken some amazing pictures of squirrel. I've not yet put up the B-roll, and this is the dish that's I'm not inviting anyone to my house right now, but you know, after lockdown, after pandemic all clears, party at my next birthday afterwards. So you can all come over for August the 13th. Although August the 13th, we normally have like that weekend. We'll sort something out, and so we can all come over, and then we might have to have people on like the floor or something to let people sleep over. So this was onions and apples and pears and spinach, and everyone enjoyed it. And I feel bad now because Chris wasn't there, but none of you were there, so like I don't know, I'm feeling bad for Chris.
It looks incredibly healthy. Like so healthy, I should step away from it. Fantastic.
Chris says that it was indeed a pigeon, so there you go. People have talked about this rivalry between Chris and Chris. I'm sorry, Chris. And Chris says that Chris can put themselves down the list by saying literally all the time. And that's yes.
An in-joke inside an in-joke inside an in-joke.
Yeah, it is a thing. Like the other day, Casey was saying, "Oh, this is literally mind-blowing," and then they stopped themselves and said, "Well, not literally mind-blowing," and because come on, and then so Jones Family Night says your game is a point barbecue. People are learning golf by Leader Games and playing Wingspan again online. Have you played this new app?
I have not played Wingspan online. I just, you know what? I'm kind of adverse to playing board games online, which is weird because it's so popular right now and it's such a big thing. But I just feel like I've got games at home and I have someone to play with me. So I don't really feel a need to play them online so much. But I can see why people would. I think it's a really cool thing, especially if you're stuck at home on your own or you've no one to play games with. Like I'd be all up in that and trying all the games. But I'm in a good situation game-wise, so I don't need to. But maybe it'll get bigger.
I find myself that I enjoy solo. I enjoy some gaming online, but I find more and more that I have to force myself away from the screen, whether that's reading a comic or something else. But I value so much yeah, the occasional times that I get someone to play games with, and there's like currently 3 people that I interact with. Oh, so we're going, yeah, Oath talking about Oath feels really good, says Oliver. We're still stumbling about a bit, basically just a learning game, but you can't wait to play it properly next time. And it was not the app, it was on Tabletopia. And yeah, we've got more. And hello, Albrotnar. Hello, Albrotnar. Yeah. I mean, it's an interesting one when you're playing on the app, because you can have something else going on, and that can sort of fill into your thing a little bit more. You can do that while you're kind of on the couch, kind of filling snippets of time, which can be quite fun.
Yeah.
Did I mention what I'd been playing? Like Kitty Cataclysm, obviously I made that myself. I don't need to go into that. But like I offered a couple of options. Like people preferred Kitty Cataclysm. I don't try to push my game too much. It's like, hey, would you like to do this one? And I was actually hoping to play the other one. But people were like, oh, let's do that one, because it's like, it is. I mean, it was kind of, maybe one person was had a couple of bevies, but you want something simple at that point. And it was chaotic. We played about 4 times, and I managed to win one in a 5-player game. But it was the Wavelength. Like, that's just such a good game, even when you're losing. Good. Even when it's like, how did you people think that this song is a happy song?
Yeah.
So, yeah, playing like I got the song, and like it was such a good one. It was like happy song, sad song. And I think that the brilliant thing about this is that we were in the house, and I could just line it up to play, and people could listen to the whole song and then evaluate it. And we could have even had like a whole game of Wavelength like that just on this one card. I feel it's such a good one. And then like just evaluate the songs, because when you can line them up, that's so good. And so no, what I put up, I want to oh my gosh, I can't remember this. It was one of the Counting Crows ones. It was the one that goes, someone stole my shoes, but I have a couple of bananas and a bottle of booze. Oh, well, happy New Year, baby. We could probably fix it if we clean it up all day, or we could simply pack our bags and catch a plane to Barcelona, cause this city's a drag. Holiday in Spain by Counting Crows. It's got a bittersweet tone to it, and for someone to say this is, anyway, sorry. I mean, I can understand
divisions. Oh, people got really angry at me when we played it, and they wouldn't play it with me anymore. So the question came up on moist, on kind of on a scale of like wetness from like 1 to 10, and I didn't say moist was fully wet at 10. I said it was like a 7, and everyone yelled at me. They got really upset. They're like, of course, if it's moist, it's wet. And I'm like, there you go.
No. Fully wet should surely be like a liquid.
Yeah, like in the ocean or something. That's what I was thinking. I was like, you're fully wet if you've been dunked in a sea or something, but you're only a little wet if you're moist, kind of thing.
Yeah, people here agree.
See, there's a difference. Everyone was like, it's either wet or it's not. You know, that's why they got mad at me for making a degree of it, and we lost thanks to that. So we've not played it since.
I disagree, Alex. You know, listen to the song Holiday in Spain. Listen to it and see if you still think it's a happy song. Anyway, but people agree it's not soaking. And
yes, it's not soaking. Yeah. Thank you. I'm feeling vindicated.
I feel like it would be 6 or 7.
Thank you.
Maybe 7.
I'll play this back for my husband and show him how right I was.
Rob says moist is 5 max.
Thank you.
Wow. A moist is a bit less than damp. Wet is ocean.
Wet is like ocean, yes, exactly.
There's a difference between moist to bed and wet to bed. Oh, man. Yeah.
Oh, Wavelength brings out the best of people, doesn't it? I love Wavelength.
I mean, this is it. It's like Wavelength. What I like about it, look, I'm going to be honest, and I'm going to, for a moment, talk about something that's marginally sad, but not especially sad. Just like, you know, it was an uneasy conversation that, like, everyone was talking about politics and discrimination that's going on in the world, and I didn't really feel comfortable engaging in that conversation. And so afterwards, like, we started playing Wavelength, and like soon it felt like we were able to just talk about the lighter stuff. And it felt like, yes, sometimes when you're playing a strategic game, like I've got this game beside me for Der Weiße Lotus, you know, that's a strategic game that you could really get your head into, or you know, whatever, or Scythe, you know, potentially, or whatever. But like, the point is that you can get distracted by thinking really deeply about something.
Yeah.
But the lovely thing about Wavelength is that it generates these conversations about things that in so many ways don't really matter, but they kind of talk about who we are, how we see the world, and isn't our perception like almost the reality of who we are?
Exactly. I think games have a very special ability like that to show you people without having to talk about specific topics, because the game is the central thing you're discussing at all times. And yet you can learn a lot about people, about how they play their game, how they interact with it. Are you the person that hoards all the money? You know, do you always go for that kind of victory? Are you the one who wants to take over as much of the map as possible? And all of this without ever having to say specific things about you. They're just things you intuit about each other from engaging in a game together. And I think there's something really special about that, and why I think games are really good for mental health as well, because you don't have to talk about how crap your day was, or no one's going to ask you, how are you doing today, which is like the worst question, how are you? But instead you're able to interact in a different way where all of that stuff is left outside for a while and you just get to kind of enjoy each other. So yeah, games super special. So I totally get what you mean with Wavelength. It's lovely to be able to shelve all that stuff and just have some fun together. So yeah, board games are the best.
Yeah, they are beautiful. And yeah, maybe we should try Wavelength like on a Tuesday, because I've got a copy, Xate has a copy. I mean, it would mean that the other people on stream, unless they have their own copy, like they would just have to be guessing all the time. But maybe that's fine. Like, maybe we could do that. Yeah. And yeah, sure, let's do that next Tuesday if people are down for it. What do you think, Xate? And yeah, we've got lots of chats about what sweatiness is and what moistness is. And but let's move on and talk about questionably quick questions with Antoinette Mason.
Oh, yes.
Are you ready to begin?
Never ready, but okay. There's always more time to prepare.
Okay. Where exactly are you?
I'm in my office, in my house, in Cork, in Passage West, in Ireland.
Passage West?
Passage West, yes, that's the name of my little village.
Can you say it more slowly?
Passage West.
Oh, Passage West. Okay. It's like, it makes sense once you've been there, you kind of roll it all together. It's like,
sorry.
Like, if someone says Birmingham, like that, then you don't really hear what they've said, you know what I mean? And it's like, oh, like at this point, like so many Americans come over and say, oh, can I find a way to Birmingham? And it's like, that's not how anyone says Birmingham. Anyway, but what time is it over there?
It's 10:23 a.m.
Would you rather have a duck-sized inquisitor or an inquisitor-sized duck?
An inquisitor-sized duck. Yeah, I like the idea of a duck that is an inquisitor that goes around in a little hat and is like, this is good, this is bad, I don't like this, but it's a duck. I like it. It'd be like DuckTales, but for board games.
I don't think the duck's doing any inquisition, though. I think it's just like it's the size of a human. So, like, there's either a little human who's who's inquisition, like, but the size of a duck. Like,
I got it backwards. It's the first one, then, isn't it? A duck-sized inquisitor. No, but then that's just a full-size person as the size of a duck, or an inquisitor-sized duck. Are these the same things?
No, it's like a duck the size of a person, or a person who's asking about things, but it's the size of a duck.
Then we'll go
Like
with the second option because you fully
Okay.
understood the question.
Okay.
Yeah, explain it to me. Yeah, we'll go with that.
Rob says, when will you be published as a board game cover artist?
Never. Have you seen my drawings? Oh my god, you should see how much hassle those things make me. Because I started doing the badly drawn board game covers during lockdown, because it felt like, you know, everyone was doing all these amazing stuff. Like people like yourself were putting out live streams, and loads of people were doing things to get together. And I was just sitting here at home going, I'm not capable of doing live streams. I might die. And I don't know why it occurred to me to suddenly just start drawing the board game covers to see could people guess them. And then people seemed to like it, so I had to keep going. So I did them for like a month straight. I did one every day for a month. And then I was like, right, I'm kind of burnt out. But people were like, no, we missed them. So I did them once a week instead. But that's the most stressful hour of my life, trying to draw those, because I can't draw.
Do you mind me posting a couple here?
Pardon?
Do you mind me sharing a couple here? From
if you want to, go on. Have you got? Oh god, yeah, that was this week's one. Look at his shoulders. Look at him. I just couldn't draw him. I did them like 5 times. I was like, oh my god, come on, Captain Birdseye. Yeah, he was having none of it. My poor little penguins.
So you can in this post see the original versus the one after, and this is
should be one
Antoinette
one day.
Things. We've got all sorts of stuff. It is genuinely a delight, and I love people kind of just doing it. It's kind of like a regular thing that pops up on the feed. Trying to there we go.
There we go. There's photosynthesis. That was the hardest. Because my brush doesn't have any textures. So if you notice, if you look at the real picture, it's like a forest and it's all kind of leafy, and I've no way to do like leafy. But they're fun. They're fun. I like doing them. I'm waiting for the day when I run out of ones I can feasibly draw, because I've not drawn any that have a bunch of humans on the cover because they're really hard. Anything with hands or faces, just like nah. So we'll keep going until I run out. But it's one of the highlights of my week. Oh, that's really sweet. Thank you.
I kind of agree. I thought it was a mushroom at first, and was
everyone did.
Wait a minute.
Everyone did, because it does look like a mushroom.
Because as you say, because you couldn't quite get the gradient going down. Oliver loves it and says, seriously, I should show my board game comic from Crazy88. Well, show it on Instagram and I will flash it up if you want.
Yay!
Surely the harder the better. I agree with this. I like the photosynthesis one because it made me see the cover in a new way, if you know what I mean.
Oh, it's true. Like the very first one I did was Concordia, and I did it without the box art in front of me, so I drew it from memory. So it is literally the worst one, and I realized I needed the actual picture next to me to be able to make anything coherent. So I draw them like that. I'm very tempted though to put them together into like a coloring book or something if people would want that. So you could color them in, because Carol from N20 Games colored one in. He colored this one in last week as a toadstool, and I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. So maybe I'll put something together with them. They'll have a use someday. Who knows? But for now, we'll just keep drawing on Sundays. Just take my money. I wasn't even charging.
Okay. Yeah. Next question. How is the Irish Inquisition different from the Spanish?
Well, we certainly drink more for our starters, and we probably care less about rules and order and stuff, and our version of surprise is kind of inviting you around for a cup of tea and maybe a biscuit. You know, like we're kind of like the lazy end of the Inquisition thing, where we're not really much of an Inquisition anymore. We're just Inquisition in name. That's what I would think. They invite you into the comfy chair for a cup of tea, you know, that kind of thing.
So you're more like the Monty Pythons.
Absolutely. That's what I styled it on, actually. I love Monty Python. And I always love that gag about who expects the Spanish Inquisition. So we were joking about who would expect the Board Game Inquisition. I was like, well, nobody. So that's why it's there. Yeah.
Hello, Euron. Lovely to see you. Chris asks, how many burnings on average per week?
Well, that's a really outdated method, to be honest. You know, we've moved on a lot from those times, so we don't really burn our board games anymore. We trade them away. So yeah, no burnings. that would be bad.
The subject of Inquisition is also slightly different, says Alex, and this is, the comic that Xate says it's just a bit small. I quite like it. Why does it always need to be a new human? We have so many. Human, happy human. Human board.
That's not bad. I like the colors in that. You can use color. I've only done one picture in color because I had no choice in the matter. But like, I think that's great.
There's the wingspan, and trying to get the other references. I mean, anyway, that is that.
I think it's good. You know what? Like, art is art. It doesn't matter if it's good or not. Just draw it for fun. And if people like it, people like it. That's great. And if they don't, they don't. You know? Have fun making things.
So I think that's a lovely thing. And that kind of ties into your approach for reviewing, getting into the main topic. And I'd like to remind everyone to continue to ask questions, comments as we move into the main topic from like follow.
Yep.
And it is what is reviewer. So, like, I wanted to say, you're talking about just have fun making things, and that's why you got started, right? Because it was just something to do.
Yeah, exactly. Just something to do because I studied philosophy in university. I was doing a PhD in philosophy, and of course, a lot of what philosophy is about like taking lots of information and making them into kind of succinct arguments or things like that, or to be able to state a position kind of in easy format. And I used to watch a lot of board game reviews, and I always wished that they were a little bit more to the point. If that makes sense. Everybody enjoys, I think, different types of reviews. Some people like kind of them to be funny, or to be like to have a story behind it, or you want to watch people play the game. I wanted like a really short review that would tell me if I like this game or not, so I could decide whether or not to watch the bigger reviews. And that didn't seem to exist at the time, way back when. There was no 3-minute board games, 1-minute board games at the time. So I was like, maybe I could do it like with a philosophical approach, where I was like, here's 5 things you need to know about this game. And if I was to try and break it down and explain it easily and quickly. So that's kind of where it came about from. I'm really chuffed, actually. It was my husband's idea that I should start all of this. He's a big gamer himself. And like for Christmas, about, however many years ago it was now, we got a copy of Bunny Kingdoms. He'd heard about it online, and we played it and we liked it. And he's like, you should write a review of this. He's like, you wrote reviews and papers all of the time. He's like, you should try this. And it had been the first time in like a year and a half or maybe 2 years that I tried to write anything since I'd been in university. And it was a really big jump for me. And I sat down, I started writing it, and it all just happened like in a go. You ever have one of those moments where everything just goes right and you're like, oh, I've made it? And I was sitting there going, God, and I while working on my PhD, there'd be days where I couldn't write 100 words. And all of a sudden I had 8 pages or whatever it was about Bunny Kingdoms. And he's like, you should put it up. So he put together a website for me to post it up on. He goes, you really should do video. And I'm like, oh God, I don't know about video. I don't like looking at myself. I don't like hearing myself. But he's like, that's how, you'll get more people to hear what you have to say. And that's how it all started. I started with a very small camera here, actually in this same room. And I just tried to talk about my favorite games in the most succinct way possible. So it's all altered over time, how I approach reviewing and things like that. But that ethos has always been my thing, which is my review is there to get you to watch other reviews if you think you like this game. I'm not the stop point. I'm the starting point, like that. So yeah, and I like that what I do encourages people to find out more. Because as a philosopher and as a person, I'm very much a critical thinker. And I think you should have all the information when you make a decision, especially about board games, because there's loads of opinions. They can be quite expensive, and you really want it to be something you really love, right? So why not, get all the information you can together and make your own decision instead of having somebody tell you, I think this is great, you should buy it. I want you to go out and watch a couple of things and decide for yourself if it's your jam. So yeah, so that's how I review. I want to give you information with my insights, I guess, tacked on at the end.
That's such a lovely approach. Just kind of saying, okay, we're going to start the questions, we're not going to finish them.
Yeah, exactly.
And I mean, of course, there's other ways to do it. You can go to a board game. Well,
You could go.
yeah, in the past, if this were 2019, you could go to a board game cafe or to a convention. But this being 2020, and after February, March, yes, you're right. Actually, nowadays it's more difficult. I mean, do you think that this wasn't one of the listed questions? But do you think that videos or reviews are like even more important than ever before?
Absolutely, because more people are searching for ways to play games at home, or searching for ways to kind of keep their family doing things together. And board games really are such a great thing for that. And there's been a big resurgence, I think, of board games in the past couple of years anyway. But right now I've heard or seen, if you look at any of the Facebook groups, the board game groups, you see more and more people going, hi, we've not played board games, I've got children of this age or whatever, what would you recommend we try? And I think it's wonderful. And I hate that people like those get made fun of sometimes because they're like, we really like Monopoly, what should we try next? And people are hating on them. I'm like, this is terrible. This is where people start. This is where you can foster and give them good games, and give them ideas. So yeah, I think reviews are important. But also I think it's a great way to is sitting at home on the internet all day, watching all the updates from, different companies or different people. I think, they're a good source of kind of information too. So yeah, you can expand your board game world by looking into reviews.
I mean, I would like to give a shout out to Rado. Sorry, not Rado. Shoot, Watch It Played. Rodney Smith. Sorry.
Smith.
Anyway, yeah, Alex says For Sale's a great game for someone who loves Monopoly. Chris says that until they met me, Monopoly was their favorite.
Yeah, like there's nothing wrong with Monopoly.
As a child, to play with my family, it was all I knew.
I know.
And I want to give a shout out to this video by Rodney Smith, which is how to play Monopoly. Now, Rodney Smith is well known for teaching people how to play more hobbyist games, that you maybe might be a bit more complicated, might have a bit more to them. And Photius says, I am new to this channel, and this was the first video from it I watched. Why is everyone saying this is a joke for April Fools? I found this video to be a perfect Monopoly explanation. Really loved it.
Yeah.
And then there's this whole thing that you can go and check out. I will just paste that, where Ronnie Smith says, yeah, this is kind of something that I did because people wouldn't accept it on another day and think, hey, here are some other games that you might enjoy.
Yeah.
And then the person says, oh, actually, I did really recently play Small World, which I really enjoyed, so I'm going to check out more. And that's them being brought into the world of all these board games.
It's fun, isn't it? I think it's amazing. I don't understand why people are hating on Monopoly so much, because that's somebody who wants to play a board game. They may not know there are other board games out there yet. I think it's a great starting place. Like, where else are you going to start from, apart from the classics at home? We've probably all played those. And I find it really interesting as well that Wingspan seems to be that type of game as well. Not quite the new Monopoly, but getting close to it, because a lot of people watch my channel who had only played Wingspan before and were now and they enjoyed it a lot. They just tried it and we're looking for more games like that. And I found that really, really interesting as a whole. And it was a lot of women as well who were looking for more games to play. And I thought that was also really heartening, because as you may or may not have noticed, a lot of reviewers are men. And it's nice to see that this has been kind of taken up by women and things like that. And they're finding games that appeal to them, not necessarily just because they're cute and adorable, because Wingspan is that, but Wingspan is also a really good game as well. So it's cool. It's cool, isn't it, how reviews are reaching people, or people who wouldn't have normally been like inside the hobby as such, that it's spreading out, and we're getting to see board games become more normalized in places like Target and things like that, where you can buy, what we would consider hobby games and stuff like that. I think it's fantastic. The more people play games, the better for everybody, and it doesn't matter what type of game it is. A game's a game. Enjoy it.
And I think this is so true. And we've got great comments from Alex and Jess, who say, people are taught these things as children, and it's just fashionable sometimes to slag them up. And look, Monopoly is a bad game. Like, I'm not saying that I'm not saying people can't enjoy bad games because the people that you play with are more important than the quality of the game.
Yes.
And even a bad game can still bring people together and elicit so much fun. Now, I'm not saying that Settlers of Catan is necessarily a better game than Monopoly. I genuinely do not believe that, because there's so many reasons why, Settlers of... I'm not going to get into a review of Monopoly and compare it to a thing that seems like a thing out with what we're talking about. But, there's reasons why people do enjoy Monopoly. Some people don't want to make decisions. For some people, the fact that you basically buy everything you land on, and then the only decisions that you make is what do you trade with other people, that's a really interesting thing. And some people, that's what they're there for. Yeah. And,
exactly. It's funny because it leads into kind of the whole topic of kind of gateway games, or what games are considered like for beginners or not. And I always think there's like, people have these lists of what they think are, gateway games. And it's like, it really depends on who you are and who you're playing with. There are some people who the first game you should introduce to them is the Firefly game, because they're a huge Firefly fan, and that instantly gets them in and gets them hooked. You know what I mean? It's like, you got to know who your audience is, what type of game is great for them. And so if people are enjoying Monopoly, enjoy Monopoly. Even a great game can be disappointment. It's so true. Yeah. And there's such a variety of games though at the minute that I don't see, why you would ever hang on, that thought stopped going absolutely anywhere. There's a game for everybody is what I was trying to say. There's a game for everybody because there's such great variety at the moment.
And Jess asks, what is a bad game though, Bez? How subjective is that? Absolutely, it's subjective. But I am going to suggest that if Monopoly, there's always edge cases, but I am going to put forward my opinion right now, that if there's a certain variation in game length that makes a game a bad game at fitting into people's lives. If a game can go on for 40 minutes or it can go on for 10 hours, and both of these are equally possible, then that game is a bad game at fitting into people's lives. I would say that if a game that can regularly go on for about 3 hours or so, and it's got player elimination, and you can get kicked out about halfway through, I think that is a bad trait. And, again, look, that's why we have reviews, that we kind of try to nail down why we do not like these things and what the issues. Like, I'm not saying that wanting to make more decisions makes the game better, because that's entirely subjective. That's entirely down to you. But I am going to posit that for 99% of people, if they sit down to play a game, I hold those two things almost as truths, and these are things that I would invite other people to challenge me on, because I genuinely like to be challenged. But I would say that if you are saying, okay, we've got X amounts of time to play a game, you want to know whether that game's going to finish within the amount of time that you've got or not. And that, I would say, is a failing of Risk and Monopoly, personally. Same with the player elimination. That's anyway. We've got someone about retrospect, and maybe I'm judging games on potential length because I have a particular need for more certainty. That's interesting. That might be true. Yeah. That just doesn't mind if they just abandon a game.
Like, I suppose you got to think of it as well as, imagine you've never played any board game ever before, and the first one you play is Monopoly. It's going to seem like something really special because you've never come across anything like it. And so much of what we determine a good or a bad game is entirely dependent on kind of our history, what got us to this point with games, and our perception of what it is that we want in a game. So there's lots of games I've played that people think are fantastic, but just I didn't like it all. And that doesn't mean the game is necessarily bad. That game is bad for me, possibly is great for you. And it's all really a perception thing, isn't it, at the end of the day, or what it is you want out of a game in the first place. So if you want a game that is timely, Monopoly and Risk isn't going to suit you, because those are your criteria of the game, but they may not be someone else's. So I like to leave it open when it comes to games. I've never said, this game is dreadful, I don't think you should ever buy it. I've come out and said, I didn't enjoy this game for the following reasons. Maybe those are reasons you will like the game, and that does often happen. I don't like games that are mean with lots of interaction like that, but other people do. And when I play a game and I'm like, well, I don't like this, but I can see someone else liking this, well, then I feel like it's up to me to tell them that. You got to be able to articulate why you don't like something just as much as the reasons why you liked it too, because that's how people can make their own choices. Like, what I'm saying isn't going to echo exactly with everybody who watches the video or reads what I said, but they need to be able to take from it the bits that apply to them so that they can make their own choice. So there you go. That's my argument about why Monopoly could be a good game if you are the right gamer.
Oh yeah. I went on We're Not Wizards like several times, and in at least one of those episodes, I give like 10 reasons. I give a whole list of reasons why Monopoly is brilliant and why Go is terrible. And for those who weren't here for like 10 games I love, Go is definitely my number one game of all time. But the point is that even within that, there's reasons why it's bad. If you want if you want something to play on your own, or you want something to play with more than two people, if you want some amount of luck, if you want any amount of theme, for all those reasons, Go is terrible. If you want something that's easy to get into,
Exactly.
And it's like, there might be, maybe you don't even like player elimination, but maybe those other aspects make up for it in your eyes.
Yeah. Yep. Depends on what you want the game to do for you. Yeah.
Anyway. Yep, I can sort of see that, but I could almost
would drive you to drink, all right.
And we could. I almost feel like we should just say, okay, at some point in the future, let's have a 2-hour show just about Monopoly, and Chris, you're basically Chris. I will get Monopoly from somewhere, and you and I and anyone who's wanting to play it can play it with us, in the house, and we will play Monopoly.
It's interesting though how that word Monopoly has become synonymous with board games for like the majority of the world's population. You know what I mean? It means the same thing to say that, and of course, if you want to get access to the entire world, you probably need to be posting something about Monopoly or maybe chess. Should have been did that recently as well. Like here's like 5 or 10 ways or something to enjoy chess, and that's how you're going to appeal to the board game masses. You gotta start somewhere. So,
I mean, we'll probably
know.
play this football special one. And we'll do that football Monopoly, and we'll do it like maybe. Yeah, we probably won't live stream the whole game. That would just be torturous. But we'll have like some sorts of discussion afterwards. Anyway, we are meant to be talking a bit more generally about, and what really ties into this whole bringing people in is someone earlier on said, when should you be sharing board game terms, etc. Like deck building, we know what a deck builder is. We know what's a point salad. I just realized I talked about point salad, and I didn't explain my terms.
Yes.
Like a point salad, for those who aren't aware, is a game where you basically have a lot of different things that you could do, and any one of these many different things give you points, and it's up to you to choose which is the most efficient. And actually working out the most efficient of these many ways to get points is part of the game. I think that's
this is something that I had an issue with for a while when I started doing reviews. I did explain the game terms, and then I realized that I was like, well, what sort of people are watching my review in the first place, and what games am I reviewing? Are these going to be kind of people who haven't played board games before? Probably not. I think the people who watch my reviews already play games and are familiar with these terms, so they didn't need to hear them. However, if I was the kind of reviewer, I suppose, who was appealing to kind of maybe more entry level games or things like that, then that is the kind of thing you want to be, explaining or discussing, or just maybe not even using the terms at all. Like, you can describe games without those terms, but although they are great for kind of categorizing games as of particular types or particular strategies or mechanics, but you could explain the game to somebody without ever using those specific terms if they're not familiar with them too. So yeah, it depends who your audience is, definitely.
And so let's get stuck into the questions that I had vaguely prepared. What is a reviewer? Let's try to define this. What is a review? Do you want to go first?
Okay, I'll go with what I think a review is, and this is all just from my own perspective. And it's kind of like what I was saying earlier. I think it's where you take something and you explain it back to somebody, including kind of your experiences of it, your thoughts on it. I think a review specifically has to have what you thought of it in it. And I think that's also what makes you the reviewer, because you're the one engaging in this activity. And parceling your thoughts in it while explaining it to somebody else, as opposed to like making a sales pitch or something like that, where you go, I'm using this thing in my life, I really love it, you should buy it. A reviewer is expected to explain, I think, how they've come to these conclusions, or how something made them felt, I suppose, or things like that. Or and in my mind, a reviewer as well should consider both the positives and the negatives. I think that's really, really important to give some sort of balance. Now, that itself is its own discussion, though, too, whether, is a wholly positive review really a review. But of course, there are going to be some things you just, straight up love and you think they're great, and that's going to happen. But I always like to add the positives and the negatives. So that's what I think a review is.
I mean, it's interesting because a review, it feels like there is some often rules overview. There's some statements of this is what it is, of facts that I could say this game is for 3 to 6 players. This game says it's 75 to 90 minutes and it's 12 years. Like, anyone could look at that off the back of the box.
Yes.
And then if I give an overview of the instructions, well, that's putting it into my own voice now, because I'm rephrasing it. But still, I'm putting forward the same information, just repackaging it. But that feels like it's such a common and arguably essential parts of the review, to just frame, this is what I'm talking about. You've got to at least frame it enough so that when people say, okay, well, is this a game that's meant to scare me? Is this a game that's meant to cause us to argue? Is it like easy to learn? Like, tell me a little bit about it. And then you frame, okay, this is what I didn't like, and this is what I did like.
Yeah. Yeah, you have to give a certain amount of information or people aren't going to know what you're talking about. But the way you present that information and how you frame it is also part of you as the reviewer. So you might mention there that game is for ages, 12 plus, and you might then focus in your review on, well, is this actually the case? Was this appropriate for this? Or I might focus on the actual length of time it took to play the game. Is this, was there enough in this for it to play in 40 minutes? Did I wish the game was longer? Did I wish the game was shorter? And that's all still the same information, but and that's what makes a reviewer a unique kind of viewpoint. You're your own person. So you're giving your thoughts on this information, and they'll be very different. And I guess that's why we have so many different types of reviewers and types of opinions, because we all don't have the same one. What's good and what's bad.
Oliver suggests that it's not about restating the rules and stats of a game, but it's about identifying the good and the bad and the why. So, Oliver, to you, but even in your reviews, Oliver, you do restate, you do kind of say this is the kind of game it is, even if you don't say all the rules, even in a magazine review, even if in something for The Guardian, they will say this is a game wherein you're playing the role of cats and you're squabbling, you're stealing from each other, you're donating cards, and it's a super quick game. Oh, might be that your furniture has arrived.
I think so. Well, my dog started to bark, so it's probably a good sign. So give them a few minutes of barking. I'm amazed you can hear that actually through my microphone. But what's interesting actually about what Oliver says is Oliver's reviews are written, and I think you get a very different style and transfer of information than you do in a video, because a video is so visual, right? So for a long time I would do my reviews and I would include a couple of photos while I talked about the game, but then I realized that there's no point in me talking to you about the mechanics of the game when you haven't seen the game really in action. So I started making videos at the start to give you a very, very rough idea of how the game played, the kind of things you would do on a turn, and how it looked set up so that when I spoke, it was in a context as opposed to just, I was talking, arbitrarily about something. And when you do written reviews, like especially when you read them, they put it in a context. It's like a story almost of how you, engaged with this game, how you played it. And they're often very emotive, I think, too, because they're so personal. And you can do that in a way in written reviews that I don't think, video reviews can convey as well. So, I think, different medium puts things differently. Because if I was to read a written review that just explained the rules to me, I would be like, I would just read the rule book. But you do need something in there to explain, your thoughts behind it too, without going, all the way into everything. And in the same way that I'm not going to make a how to teach video or how to play video, because that's a completely different kind of set of things. But I want to do enough of that so you're with me when I tell you about it.
Oliver says, if what's good or bad are the mechanisms, game length, etc., then of course you will need to talk about them. However, I don't think there's much point in reproducing all the rules and all the stats, only talk about what's relevant. And this is it, it is probably relevant that if I say, hey, I'm going to review this game, I'm not, right now at least, but, I could say, I could rephrase all the text, I could rephrase all the contents of the box without even opening the box right now, but maybe it's not relevant to my audience what the age is, but are they going to be looking for that? But presumably the fact that it's 3 to 6 players, that lets someone look at it and straight away say, you know what, I'm only playing games with one other person, I'm out, this isn't for me, I'm not going to read this. But I think that we're coming from it from a very similar perspective, and we're just kind of splitting hairs. I think no one here believes that a review should be able to teach you the entire game, just enough so that, for me, a review is not only explaining what is good or what is bad, because what is good or what is bad is just what you think is relevant. And so maybe really a review is you saying what it is and what you think the most pertinent points are, and summarizing all it is and summarizing the thoughts that you've had. And what you present, it's all about you choosing to say, okay, these are the pertinent parts, and me saying, okay, this is parts of what makes this game, and what makes it different. If I talk about the Stefan Feld game and my audience doesn't necessarily know Stefan Feld, of course, I'm going to probably end up saying, well, in this game, there's lots of different ways you can get points, and parts of the game is working out how to get your points.
Yeah, exactly. And obviously it depends what type of review you're trying to do too, or who your group is. So I talk primarily about games played at 2-player because that's what I play, but that same game may go on to someone else and they'll play it with 5 or 6 players, and it'll be a completely different review than mine, despite it being the same game. So you really do have to search and find the reviewer whose tastes align with yours, or who plays things similar to you, or you feel like you at least know where they stand on things, if you like it or not. That's a really important skill, I think, to develop as someone who watches board game reviews. Finding the person who fits you, so then you can follow along with what they do and what they suggest.
We've got Xate who says they get bored by most reviews, but then again, they know how to use BGG. They would basically look at BGG first to decide if it's something that they even care about. Chris is saying that a written review will have a different meaning based on who's reading it, and with a video review, the video person, like the presenter, has to rely on their own emotions to get the points across, and so you can bring a lot of your own. Do you think you agree with that?
That's interesting because I do think we watch videos differently too. Now I think definitely with reading it's a little bit different because reading does, you're reading something, you're turning it into something in your brain, whereas you're watching something, you're being fed something. But how you perceive that the reviewer looks really pissed during this review. It looked like they didn't enjoy it at all. And you can intuit those things, or by the words they use, or how dramatic they are, or how underwhelmed they are. Like I think there's more you can maybe get there, but I agree it's not like reading is definitely a different understanding than video. Before the experience.
And Chris is comparing it to a book.
Yeah.
Like versus a film translation, when you've got I don't know, like Game of Thrones. If you watch a TV series, then it's more about what they presented, whereas with the book you bring a lot more of yourself.
Definitely.
Oliver says that reviewers should be knowledgeable about board games. Would you agree with that? That you can't really review. I don't know if I'm misstating what Oliver's trying to say, but that you have to have this background of knowledge.
I think to be able to kind of have keen insights into the board game you're talking about, it would be good and definitely beneficial to have experience with other games, because otherwise you're just reviewing this thing in a vacuum without kind of a whole host of kind of goings on behind you. I think it's important you're aware of what's out there. Like nobody's going to have played all of the games all the time. Not even Tom Vassell has played everything, and he plays all sorts of things.
Someone's played barely a tiny fraction.
I know, right? So it just, you want to have as much knowledge, I suppose, as you can. But you can't do everything. But I definitely recommend, of course, that you are a gamer yourself and you're actively playing games. But then again, why would you have started reviewing board games if you didn't already love them and have maybe played a bunch of them? And, it's not like reviewing is particularly easy.
Other things. Maybe you are there's people who review toys or review gadgets and stuff. And maybe one day this game pops up and they say, hey, you know what? This is the first ever board game that I played. And whoa, this is so complicated. I didn't like it. And then it turns out that they're talking about this super simple thing. And Jess says they have never seen a board game review because they don't want surprises. Sorry, they like surprises. They like surprises. Yes. Sorry, Jess, I was about to misstate you. And people can see the original text there. So basically, cool. I mean, how do you feel about board games giving too much away? Obviously, this is a big thing in legacy games, whether it's Charterstone or any of these games where you open up little packages and then you don't know what's in that package. And so in a review, I have done a spoilerific review of one of those games, but in general, people don't share all the spoilers, and with Arkham Horror, you wouldn't share details of every single card or whatever. And with Wavelength, I wouldn't share every single card. If I were to do a review of it, I think I might have done, but I'd be like, okay, here are some examples, so you get an idea of what kind of thing it is. I mean, it's for sure, if you're playing it yourself, I can see it's wow, this is a brand new thing, and there's that excitement of playing something. Yes. I've absolutely no idea.
I feel a little bit the same way, especially when it comes to unboxing videos and things like that. I don't generally watch them because I like the surprise of opening up the box and finding out what's inside. And even if you'll watch a review sometimes for a game and you feel like you know how it works, I don't necessarily feel like you lose the excitement of everything that's in the box because, I saw it on TV, but here's my version and I can touch it and feel it and I can put it together and it's exciting. We all know that moment when you take the lid off the box and you're like, what's inside? And here's all the baggies and this is up with this and you're popping out the pieces. I think there's still some kind of glee there, even if you know what the game's about. I like to keep that glee because my unboxing videos are me opening the box for the first time. I've no idea what's inside. So they're a little bit random. But I just thought it was kind of fun at the time. I was like, I'll just open it up. And if anyone wants to listen to me open it up, why not? And I've got some great surprises and stuff like that way too. I like not knowing. So yeah, I'm with you on the not knowing everything. But if you're spending a lot of money on a game, you do want to know everything. before it gets to your house, and it cost you, I don't know, X number of euros. And then it turned out the game was really not for you at all, and it was going to take 20 hours to play, and you needed 17 players, and you're like, oh no. So that's why reviews are good. Spend your money wisely and get games you want. Yeah.
And I think it's maybe, you know, if you're playing games in a board game cafe in Thailand, or, you know, anywhere else where it's safe to do so, maybe in New Zealand, I don't know, then go ahead and just try them out, because it's not a big cost. And that's like the best place.
I agree.
I know
you.
you're in Thailand, but like, you know, I wouldn't recommend anyone go to Board Game Cafe in the UK.
No, no, Ireland.
I'm sorry, board game cafes, but it's like, and I hope you survive, but I'm really sorry. Anyway, so it's like you still get those things. We've got a few questions. I'm going to take these quickly. Should and do reviewers specialize in reviewing a particular category of games? I mean, obviously you've got the Party Game Cast, featuring the Party Game Cast, the podcast about party games and games you take to parties, which talks about party games and games you take to parties.
I think it makes a lot of sense, because then so I think gamers as a whole have a particular niche of things that are their favorite or that suit their play group best, and want to know more about those type of games. So if you want to know about party games and family games, you should never watch me, because I'm those things just don't appeal to me. If you want to learn about really boring Euro games and some nice midweight things, then that's probably more up my street. And I think there is a reviewer for everybody. There'll be people who will, for instance, if you want to learn about a party game, you don't want to learn about it from me, who's just two of us. You want to have had 8 people who played this, tell you about the amazing time they had, some of the problems they had, some of the in-jokes that developed while they were playing the game. That's the kind of person you want to learn about the game from. And people who've played a lot of party games as well will have more knowledge about those type of games specifically. I think obviously different reviewers have different niches, and I would be going different places depending on what type of game I wanted to know about, for sure. Yeah.
And I know that after Kitty Cataclysm, which I appreciate, you kind of did a video for that, and then you said that you didn't feel comfortable with doing that review. Can you talk about that for a minute?
Sure. So like I said, I normally play games with just 2 players, and we play kind of heavier games. And so when it came, and my reviews are, 5 things about whatever game it is. And I just don't feel like that fits kind of party games or lighter games particularly well, because I don't think it makes them shine very good. Because I sit there and go, so what's the theme? Well, it's usually something fun and entertaining. Okay, great. And then the mechanics are usually, well, it's this, we play cards, we do this. And I just think by drawing it out in my format, it makes the game sound way worse than it is, because those games are really, really fun. And they're about people and being interactive. And I don't feel like I'm particularly fun or interactive. So it doesn't sell the game. And the worst part is I'm like, this is actually really, really fun. But I always want to do my best by the game I have, right? I always want to put its best face forward. And I think there are people that do those type of games far better than I could. And it's not that I don't like it or anything. I just don't think the people who watch my videos or how I present it is the best for it. So yeah, that's why I didn't do any more after that, because I had a hard time figuring out how to make it shine. So there you go. I want your game to shine. That's why. I like to look into that. Yeah. True.
And sure, Xates, if you do that, then I will put it on the Kickstarter. I guess to be fair, I was for a moment thinking, is Xates going to say, why Xates saying wahahaha? Is Xates going to say how they hate it or something? But no, Xates actually plays it to players, so anyway, everyone in a cafe in Thailand can hear us.
Hello, cafe in Thailand.
Now, there's a couple of people have been talking about film reviews and wine reviews and everything, but we've decided that fundamentally what it is, it's about explaining what it is through the viewpoints of yourself, where you kind of decide what is important, what is important to share. Would you say that a reviewer is just anyone who's done a review?
Oh, that's very specific. I actually think a reviewer is anybody who's had an audience. So it's not enough I write my review and I leave it sitting here on my desk and no one ever sees it. I think you have to have somebody on the receiving end of your review to make you a reviewer. So I'm not sure how controversial that thought is, but I think, you're writing, a review is essentially written for somebody. And if nobody gets to it, did you really, what was the value of it, I suppose? So yeah, that's what I think makes you a reviewer, when you put it out there and someone else, reads it and, understands something from it.
And so that audience presumably could even be just one person.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Even if it's your mom, you're like, here, look, I wrote a review. Go read it, Mom. There you go. You're a reviewer, at least in my book. See, I don't know what other kind of constraints you'd put on it. How else would you consider yourself to be a reviewer? Like, are you a reviewer when like 10 people have read your thing or watched your video or whatever it is? I feel like as long as it got to somebody. Yeah.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. And so you say that a review is a review, even if no one has read it, but you are only a reviewer once you've actually taken the step of sharing your thing.
Yeah, I think so. I would almost stand by that statement, yes.
Would you say that a reviewer is a reviewer if they've put it on the internet, so anyone could see it, but no one has clicked through yet?
That's a really good question, because the idea is, of course, is you put it out somewhere beyond yourself that people are capable of seeing it. So yeah, I would think that too. In the same way, if you wrote an article for a newspaper, but nobody read it in the newspaper, you still, you're still a writer for the newspaper. So I'll put it in that same vein. Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
I'm getting very philosophical this morning. I love it. It's been too long.
Like Oliver thinks slightly differently. Oliver thinks
as
soon as he writes a review, you're a reviewer. But we're kind of agreed. So like, oh my God, this is such a big question. I don't know if I should have had this. What is a good... I am going to say that's a good... Let's go backwards. I think a good reviewer is someone who writes good reviews.
Oh, okay. Define good, because now you're just going really back to what's a good review then. Like, we could just go back and back along the posts, ad infinitum. But I don't know. I think there's something inherent in a review it's designed for somebody else to see someday. I think there's something about that, because you're trying to impart information. Now, can you say the same if you write a book and no one ever reads it? You still wrote the book. Are you an author? I suppose, yeah, you're the author of the book. But I don't know. I don't know if reviews are the same as books, especially kind of video reviews.
And Alex says they put a review on their laptop where Alex's wife could see it by clicking through into the folder and asking for the password.
Yes, we're getting very philosophical. I love it. I love it. As long as there's no impediment, I suppose, between where people can access your review, I'll back it up like that. It's not quite the same as having it out in the open for anybody to see. Is it like, nailing it to the door of a church, something like that? If you write a review, leave it in a wood. Yeah, Squirrel seals the review. I'm going to go no with that, because squirrels can't read. Sorry, squirrels. So maybe they haven't accessed your review. Yes, like squirrels. Okay.
So,
it's a difficult question, though.
A published reviewer is different to a reviewer. I mean,
published makes it very formal, doesn't it? Published by whom or what? Like, I publish it on the internet. Is that the same as publishing it in a book or in a newspaper? Because they're very different things. They have to go through very different, they have to go through different people's hands to get to the viewer first. So I don't know. I think the internet messes with a lot of our conceptions of what's out there or has been made or published, because now anybody can publish anything anywhere at any time for everybody to see. compared to, like just days of print media and whatnot. So maybe in the world of the internet, everyone can be a reviewer.
Let's talk about what is good. What qualities do you think have to be in a good review? I mean, we already talked about making sure that it's understandable to the target audience. We talked about being discerning in curating what information you pass on. Anything else?
Nice. Okay, so what is a good review? You know what? I think, there's a whole element of reviews where you have to get through who the writer or the creator of the review is in the first place, right? So some people will sit down and watch Shut Up and Sit Down because they're easy to watch and they're funny, and that's their style of review for them. That's what makes their review good. It's got humor in it, right? There are other people who will watch. I could keep listing places, but my point is that you're interacting with the person to begin with, and that I think is the most important part of determining your review, if it's good or not for you, is who that person is and how they're telling you the information and how you relate to them. So, for example, like if I'm going to watch a review for something, it'll be from Tom Vassell, from the Dice Tower, and that doesn't mean I think his reviews are the best, because I don't. And I don't always agree with what Tom picks either. But I feel like I've watched enough of Tom Vassell by now to know when he says, I didn't like this game, that I'll probably go, oh, actually, maybe I like it then. And I know what way he leans into things or what he favorites, so that I can decide if this game is something I like or not. And I think that's what makes a good reviewer, is someone that you can understand and connect with, and who you trust, more importantly, to give you real information that you can use and has probably worked in the past, that kind of idea. So that's where I go. If I've picked a board game that's, a reviewer recommended and I really liked it, I'll probably go back and see what else they recommend or what else they suggested. So it's really about the person, I think, sometimes, isn't it, rather than the review.
I like, what you're saying about different things being for different folk. Like, maybe you watch this one because it's funny, you watch this one. Sorry about this.
You're right.
Oliver said good might mean that it's from an expert who's able to be more insightful. Like, maybe that suggests that someone who has done development work, might be a better reviewer. I don't know if that necessarily follows, because it's not just about having that understanding, but it's about communicating it to the target audience. I think that if you, on the internet radio show I used to do, which we are going to turn into a podcast this December, we're not re-recording anything. We're just basically taking literally all the old shows off Mixcloud and then putting them up on a weekly basis, which should last a couple of years. But because I did do it for a while, it's just that they're not really available anywhere except for Mixcloud, which is a bit sad. Anyway, so I think the second episode was what is a good game? And to me, it came down to kind of, because a good game is so subjective, it's basically about telling people what you're going to find in the box and then meeting those expectations. So it's about setting expectations and then meeting them. And maybe that's the same as a review. Maybe that's the same as anything. It's about setting those expectations, but then having the appropriate level of meeting those expectations, I guess, with, some surprises along the way, for sure. If it's meant to be playful, if it's meant to be comedy, then absolutely you need surprises. If it's meant to be entertaining, if people come here and they weren't to get, a weird question, then maybe they would feel a bit disappointed if I didn't laugh or, we didn't have some singing. But at the same time, there's like, certain formats and some sorts of expectations.
That's really insightful, actually, the idea of expectations, because that comes back again to kind of trusting your reviewer. So I tell you that I think this game is really, really fun. So you go, okay, I'll get the game, and you get it home and you go, well, actually, this game was not very fun at all. So that means next time you're probably not going to listen to what I said, because, those expectations weren't met. So that's really, really good. I like that idea, actually, of giving expectations.
I mean, there's definitely lots of technical stuff that Oliver mentions. I mean, obviously, if you've got typos in your writing, if look, there's parts of my speech that are going to be problematic. You know, sometimes I stutter over a word or I have a bit of a gap. And there is no editing here. Hooray. Like what happens is what goes up and there's never any editing. Once one person wanted some editing because of, and then I said, look, fine, if you download it and then you edit it and then you send it to me, I will be putting it up. And then they weren't that fussed about that, it turned out.
Editing is hard work.
Yeah, that's why I stream.
Yeah. So yeah, there's different versions of good. Yeah, how good is it in the sense of, does it look good? Can you hear the person particularly well? Is it well lit? Do you get a good sense of what the game's all about? There's different levels of good here. Is the information you're getting good? Is how it is presented good? Is it accessible? Is also another good point. Like, is it easy for me to get a hold of these reviews? That kind of stuff. So yeah, there's loads of different ways to go with, you know, good.
Would you say that a good reviewer is just someone who produces good reviews?
Yeah, I think I might, because the point of a reviewer is to, you know, make good reviews. There are obviously corollaries to that, like to how, so I can, well, it depends on who you are as well. I'm the sort of person that depends, that kind of likes, I've completely forgot my train of thought. You can tell it's Friday morning.
Oh, good.
So what was I trying to say? Anybody help me out?
How about a good reviewer not necessarily being...
Yeah, like, I think what you have to say should be the most important part, or, you know, that insight thing that is entirely personal to you and unique to you is what should make you a good reviewer. But there's often all these extra things around it, as Oliver is pointing out there, about how good your content looks, how accessible it is, and all that kind of stuff that will encourage more people to see the good review in the first place. So like, there are probably, you know, tons and tons of people out there making really great content, but we don't hear about them, you know, that's in that sense. Because promoting your reviews and all that sort of stuff, or being a good promoter, I think is just as good a part, is just as much a part of being a good reviewer. Otherwise, you've no one to read your work, or watch your stuff if nobody can find it or knows about you. And that's a taxing job all by itself. It's not good enough that you are a good reviewer nowadays. You also have to be, you know, kind of seen, I suppose, and be, you know, recognized kind of socially and stuff like that, for people to find you and interact with you and look at your stuff.
I think I'll try and move this forward just so we get through all these things. Let's talk about relationships. Richard Simpson brought this on last week. Obviously, the fact that I'm even having you on here, the fact that Oliver is watching this, the fact that, you know, I am in many ways promoting relationships between myself and other people, and yet I'm a designer. You know, there is going to be a game, hopefully at some point in the future, which I might think, yes, this is suitable for Antoinette to play with one other person. That, you know, it's more involved two-player game. Probably not Seize the Power, because honestly, I am kind of struggling making that two-player playable. But Oliver played it, and like, even me having Oliver over to play it's like, when you demo it to a potential reviewer, like, yeah, it's really, really tricky. Can we get to a brief overview? What's your thoughts on this?
Okay. I think the board game industry is unusual in how it kind of how people are connected with each other, because we know reviewers and that, for the most part, work for free. The majority of them do, and it's very important, I suppose, especially when you're a smaller reviewer and you're trying to grow your channel or get more people to watch your stuff, that that you're able to connect with companies who want, you know, their games to be reviewed and get more get looked at and things like that. So there's this very strange relationship where you're essentially working for the company who's giving you something for free, and you want to maintain that relationship as well. And I think that's where a lot of people feel like lines get blurred, where, you know, how can you be objective if you're being given something by a company to create this thing about it? You know what I mean? And you want to foster those relationships. There's also the issue, I suppose, as well, where companies work with particular individuals and only those individuals all of the time because they have relationships built up with those, and that you end up seeing the same people reviewing the same things all of the time, and it makes it kind of a very neat circle. But there's a part of me that goes, well, so you're a game designer and you're releasing your next game or whatever. Don't you want the biggest and bestest and most popular reviewers to have your game? Why would you pick somebody smaller if you really want, people to get to see your stuff? So it's something I think a lot of reviewers will struggle with, because obviously you want to be honest and you want to be independent and you want to be able to give your own thoughts on things. But there are all these connections and relationships going on, as you yourself said, which you can't avoid, and which in fact are necessary if you want to get access to kind of different review copies and different companies and stuff like that. And you can see that as well, especially with conventions and things like that, how important it is to go and meet people, get out and people get to know you. So then, they'll work with you in the future. Like it is very messy, tangled kind of thing. I don't think there's any clear-cut answers with how this kind of goes or works. It's just a strange system.
And yeah, I think it goes back into what Jones Family Games said earlier on about that honesty. As you said, you want to be able to be independent enough so that what you say does... Look, I'm not going to... I would not... It's weird because, I did a review of a game that I designed and self-published. And during that, it was back in the day when it was about an hour and a bit. And I was asking people during it, is this a review? And people said, you know what, if you are actually willing to step aside and critique it and talk about the shortcomings, which you are, because I'm not one of these people who says, look, my game is the best game ever. I genuinely say, look, if you want a really thematic games, frankly, none of my games so far are for you. I'm not saying that I'm a bad game designer, because I don't believe that, and I'm not saying that. But what I'm saying is that so far I have not made any thematic games. And it's look, there are problems with the games that in some instances I've been able to fix them. That's why I keep working on Wibble, change the rules. And Fable, the printed rules of that, I'm actually unhappy with, which is a bit sad because, it actually improved the route. Thank you very much. Anyway, so it's about... Jones says it's about disclosure. I say, okay, this is my game, or this is a friend's game, or hey, this is the game from a company that is paying me to review it. Can you still be honest? And to get back, Jess talks about, just to clarify, we're not talking about relationships as in hooking up. That was a joke. But it was actually... we are of course talking about just relationships with the reviewer, with the because sometimes there's free games, people think, sometimes it's even payment for an actual review. Do you think that's an appropriate thing?
I think it is, and I think it has to be, because board games have a value. So regardless of whether or not your board game came to you for free, it has a value all of its own out in the world. But I think that's kind of the least you can give a reviewer who puts a lot of effort and time into promoting your game. I'd like to see anybody hire somebody to do the job of the reviewer does for the price of their game. The kind of way, because it's not just necessarily that somebody will make a video and give an opinion on it, but it's also all the kind of the posts on social media, all the photographs and things like that. I don't know. It's recently I was working on a board game, and I decided for the first time ever I would tot up how many hours of effort I put into making that video. I've never done one. I've never done before. I put nearly 30 hours into the last video I put out. And I was really, really surprised. But the thing is, I'm not doing this to get paid. That wasn't the point of making reviews in the first place. Obviously, it would be really nice if people recognize my hard work or whatever, or something like that. That would be fabulous. And I think getting the game that you're using for, during the video and to play and all that stuff, it's still part of kind of what you're doing. So I think it's only fair that reviewers kind of get games like that. Now, obviously, you know, you hear tales. I don't know any reviewer who's just taking a bunch of games and not making reviews, but you hear these tales of people just like, oh, I'm a reviewer, I'm going to get all these games for free. No real reviewer I know has talks like that, because they know it's actual work. You know what I mean? It's a labor of love for sure, but it is kind of like a job. So no, still not sure where I was going with all this, but I think it's fair that you get the game at least for kind of what you do. And usually as well, the reviewer you get, especially if they enjoy your game, they'll continue talking about your game for a long time afterwards as well. You kind of get a spokesperson for life when you get a reviewer. You know what I mean? Anytime I see Kitty Cataclysm on the shelf, I can go, oh, that's a fantastic game. You definitely want to play with a group of people. It's really funny. And I was like, you should see all the cat drawings. You know what I mean? Because I've had that experience with it. I've gone through it. And so, yeah, you get a spokesperson for life. Same with them.
That's something that I know Richard Simpson has lots of problems with. It should... I wanted to talk about... I'm just going to share this screen from a board game group. We get rid of this banner. So I asked about what stipulations, obligations, requests are you comfortable accepting? People talks about deadlines. We talked about potentially linking to the website, and that seems reasonable. And what are you happy to do? Like, obviously, Stonemaier Games, you know, you pay for the shipping, but then you have to do it within a certain frame.
He's changed that since. That used to be Stonemaier's model. So his more later reviews or reviewers kind of mails have gone out, and you no longer have to pay for shipping, and there's no time limit on it now. You just have to let them know when your review is complete. So that was an interesting update after the backlash that happened on Twitter. So,
I mean, that's an interesting one, because I got an email from them not too long ago where, hey, if you want, here's some games, make sure you review them in about 2 months.
Yeah.
That's the expectation, and you will have to pay for shipping.
Yeah, because that's happened to me with them before. It's the reason I hadn't reviewed Tapestry, actually, because I would have had to pay shipping, and I couldn't afford to pay shipping. I was like, I cannot afford to pay 40-50 quid to ship this from the States to me, so it went out. But the latest wave, I don't know what way it works, so I do now have a copy of Tapestry. I'll have to review sometime soon, but I did not have to pay to ship it, which was nice. But still, like, the idea, I suppose, that we should be paying to ship these things to us is different, especially when it's a big company and not a very small company. Like, I can understand small companies sometimes. I know I've paid for shipping to post a prototype onto somebody else or something like that. And I don't mind kind of doing those things. But big companies, it's a little odd. So... But yeah, like, to be fair, most companies don't make big stipulations on the reviews, or at least they've not with me. It'll be like, can you have it released by a particular date, especially when it comes to Kickstarter games, because they are released, you know, on particular days. And Stonemaier is the only one who said, months ago, that you had to have things in order, done by a particular time frame. So that's it. 40 quid to shipping. Yeah, it was from the States, because it's a big box, and I live in Ireland, and it's expensive. And, yeah, there you go.
Whereas the newest thing was, I got Tapestry and My Little Scythe, which cost me, I want to say, $18 something, because that was from a UK fulfillment center. Yeah. Maybe at the time it hadn't filtered through or something.
Exactly. Yeah, like the second lot came from a UK distribution center, which is obviously much better. And yeah, exactly. But I still think, paying, I suppose, to get the copy to you is a little bit, I don't know. It definitely made me uncomfortable, to be honest.
I mean, as a publisher, I do totally understand it, because look, there are so many people, and like last time you were here, we talked about not following through on the reviews. Like, I shared the big threads. You can go back to last time Antoinette was here, where there was Nick Case, I want to say, who was sharing on BGG, hey, look, there was this many people who came up at Essen and said, I'm a reviewer, give me your game, and they didn't do anything with it. And so you want to make, if someone's like, even spent the money on shipping, then they're more likely to actually follow through, I think.
I think so. I think that's the case. It shows that they're very dedicated or interested, for sure. However, I think being upfront about that and kind of apologizing for that, like, I'm sorry that this is the case, but this is how it has to be, is different than saying, if you want to review this, you can have it at a discount, and then you can pay your own, you have to pay your own shipping or whatever to get there without it being kind of mentioned. So I think there's different ways of going about it, but it's not the norm. Normally, people will send you their game, without payment or anything like that to it.
It is, I mean, for sure, this particular topic, like it kind of deserves its own thing, and I would love to have Richard Simpson here, because they're the one who brought it up, and it is unavoidable to have these relationships. It's unavoidable that, yes, if you want an early copy of a game, then you've got to have some sort of relationship. And kind of, as a publisher, if I want other people to review my game, I think, I've got to build up that relationship. Why is it beneficial? I think it definitely becomes beneficial because I'm able to then say, hey, look, this is a game, it's a good game, but it's not for Antoinette. I'm not going to share Plus with you, for example. Even though it's got a 2-player variant, it's not really your kind of game. It's and I'm not going to send Plus to Xate because Xate wouldn't like slapping their hands at speed. It's and like, if you're just getting started, do you have any tips?
Oh, okay, this is an interesting one. Okay, getting started. I'm trying to remember how I started. You know what? Just be nice to people. Get to know people. That's really, like, don't expect everything to fall into your lap instantly. Publishers aren't going to be falling over themselves to send you their games straight away. Be consistent, like, so people get to know you. So, like, I put out videos once a week on a Wednesday, and if that's what you say you're going to do, then do it, because people come to follow you and expect you that way. And be nice, because you know what, the board game community are some of the nicest people I've ever come across. They're always really friendly and really helpful, and you'd be amazed what can come out of those kind of relationships. Like, the very first review copy I got that wasn't just something I owned was thanks to another reviewer on Twitter. Does anybody remember Shiny Happy Meeple? She was really nice. She was reviewing 2 Kickstarter games, and she'd finished with them and asked could she send them to me. And they were my first Kickstarter games, the first time I'd seen a game that wasn't mine. And I always thought that was such a nice thing to do, to reach out to help somebody who was just starting out, you know what I mean? And from that grew other relationships. I think be yourself, be nice, do your best with what you can. Not everything's going to be perfect. Don't invest any money in anything right away at the beginning, because you won't know what you're doing. It's my biggest flaw, was that I started out and I was like, right, I'll get a camera so I can make a video. And then I was about a month or 2 into videos going, God, this camera is nothing I needed it to be at all. I was like, I need a flip out screen so I can see what I'm recording, because I couldn't see. The amount of times the amount of times I recorded myself without hitting the on switch and I didn't know. And it took me a long time to figure out what I needed versus what I thought I needed. Yes, games you already have. Exactly. Start with what you know best. Start with what you love and see where that can branch into.
Or maybe something you're planning to get rid of. I mean, those are
interesting.
Started up this stream, one of the earliest reviews was a game that I knew that once I'd reviewed it, I would give it away. It was kind of like a way to kind of say goodbye to the game, and it was quite cathartic in many ways.
The other thing is figure out what it is you're about. What's different about you to every other channel out there? Because there are tons and tons of review channels of people sitting in front of their board game wall and telling you about this game. Try and do something that's all of your own, that people will remember you for, and that speaks to you as a person. You know what I mean? It's actually to your advantage not to be like everybody else. You have to find a way to stand out. And do that, and do that. And sometimes that is just by being yourself, though, too. You know what I mean? Like,
even if you're not actually that nice.
yes, even if you're not actually that nice. Maybe your thing is you're not nice. The internet also seems to like people who are grumpy about everything. So, go for it. If that's your thing, embrace it and share it. If you want to just be like a grumpy person talking about board games, go for it. I'm sure there's loads of people who'll be willing to watch that. And of course, try not to watch the numbers too much. Of course, numbers are important.
Really,
numbers can really get inside your head a lot. And it's lovely to see them, going up. Obviously, very sad to see them going down. Don't worry too much about kind of negative comments and things like that. All of that stuff comes with being on the internet because it's its own brave thing, putting something out there for other people to judge. But just do your own thing. Focus on what you're doing. Try not to look at what everyone else is doing. And I say this all the time while also looking at what everyone else is doing and wishing I was doing better. But I just got to accept that I'm doing the best I can do for me. I'm never going to be some big board game channel or whatever. And I don't think I'd want that in the long run. I don't think that's very me. But just, take pride in what it is you're doing and do it the best you can and see where it all pans out. There you go. Those are my tips.
Those are some brilliant tips. And, if anyone else is thinking of doing this, then basically just, maybe try to get started. Jones Family Game Night. I'm so sorry that we don't have time to properly explore this, but I'm formally inviting you to join me on this show if you feel like you would have time one day to let's talk about this, because I don't think that this can really be done, but like maybe it can, like, let's talk about that. It's like just as a thought experiment.
So.
If you want to chat about it, come on and let's chat. It would be lovely to meet you and chat. I
have nothing to do with any publishers of any type. They've been kind enough to send me games to review. I've reviewed them and carried on with no further connections.
Now,
funny.
Wanted to talk about why people review games. I did this poll and someone said it's because it's something that I can control 100%, like anything that sense of control in their life. I love that Eric Dewey and Donald Dennis have both do, because my co-host makes me, and they are co-hosts for someone who doesn't know. That's actually the first ever podcast that I was properly listening to. I love it. They're such lovely folk. It gives me something to do. I enjoy mulling over and formulating my own thoughts. I learn about stuff from interviewees. That's what I personally, why I do what I do. Luna added, and these are becoming more and more popular. I love games, and this has helped me to improve my storytelling and social skills. Helps expand board gaming. I love that connection that we make, enjoying their journey, hearing their story, encouragements, and games. I enjoy connecting with folk. I just realized I misspelled folk. Oh my gosh. I love games and I want to share that with the world. And the number one reason for doing any of this is it's a creative outlet.
Interesting.
Did you kind of tick some of these boxes?
I'm pretty sure I can. I'm pretty sure I ticked the top one. I could be wrong about that, but I'm pretty sure I've seen it. But what's funny actually for me is I never saw this as something creative. I saw this as something like a thought experiment in a sense, because I was thinking about it very philosophically. And I was just like, I want a better way to share games, I suppose, with people, kind of in a different. I wanted to make the content I wish I could watch. That's kind of where I started. What I felt was kind of missing. I was like, I wish I could watch this, so why not try and make it? So that's how it started out. But it turned out this is much more creative and artistic than I had ever thought it would be. Terrifyingly so. I've ended up being far more artistic than I planned. And
sometimes it is just writing for yourself rather than writing other people. Again, bye Jay, it was lovely to have you. And it can lead to work. I mean, so I'm not saying that it does for everyone, but
I wish.
The job was actually very much the blog I think was a tiny part of it. And similar with me, I got a small job. We'll see how it turns out in a week's time. I've not signed any NDA, but it's not meant to be a public thing. But it was kind of because I was in the person's mind, so they already knew that I could develop games. But it's like, oh yeah, Bez, you know, they're doing that thing. We should ask them.
Oh, that's
So
fantastic.
thank
Of
you.
course, I would love to get a job out of this, but I doubt it's going to happen. I think it would be very naive of me to think there would be something out there for me to do. But it'd be nice, you know, to somehow do something that was kind of connected, because like sometimes I do rules editing and stuff like that as well. But you know, it's just a small way of keeping this all going. So
And yeah, I know we've got to wrap up in 10 minutes, but anyone
Yeah.
in the comments, feel free to share why you review games. And Antoinette, you've already talked about it originally being to keep yourself sane, which, to be
Yeah.
honest, is a big part of the reason why I started doing it, which I kind of said as something to, it gives me something to do. There's a kind of lot to unpack there. It gives me a reason to wake up in the morning. It's like something to look forward to. It's like,
Yes.
yeah, I'm going to get to chat with someone, and
Yeah.
it's lovely, kind of. I get to chat with you.
Oh, it's lovely chatting to you too.
Aww.
It's nice, isn't it, to have that thing that keeps you going. You know, that thing that, you know, you need to get up and do every day. I like connecting with folk too. Yeah, it is. And there's so many amazing people, the board game people. They're just like miraculous people. I love them. They're the absolute best. They're the only people you can post something on Twitter in the morning and going, you know, this Monday is terrible, and a bunch of people will pop in wishing you good luck or cheering you on. It was like, you guys, I wasn't actually looking for sympathy, but thank you. So yeah, I gotta love them.
And there is, like, on the Facebook group where it's like, okay, yeah, share your highlights. And yeah, I really like Vaughn's group where it's like, hey, here's what's going on. And we talked about a reviewer's obligations last time. We spent like 2 hours talking about that. And it's tied into like, okay, we're talking about obligations for yourself. Be honest to yourself. Take care of yourself. That's an important thing to remember. Yeah, if you say you're going to do something for the publisher, you don't need to agree to everything. But once you've agreed to it, you know, do it.
Yeah.
Like, and I would say that if you've said that you're going to make a video, sure, life gets into the way. So if, you know, there's some health issues or something, you know, it's not your job. It's not like, it's like a lower obligation than something where you're actually getting an income from. And publishers have to understand that, even though it's a bit sad sending a game out and then not getting anything in return. But try and meet any promises that you've made. But also, the most important obligation we talked about was honesty to everyone else.
Yeah. Absolutely. Because like, what are you if you're not, you know, honest? Or, you know, what's the point of doing what you do if you're not telling your truth about things, you know? It seems super disingenuous to just, you know, to gloss over things or say things are great even though they're not. Because, well, you know, your viewers trust in you.
And Joe's Family Game says, I'm starting to do reviews to flex long dormant creative muscles.
Yay.
And Jess Jess takes us to the bathroom sometimes, apparently. Like on their phone, because they're watching us on their phone. And Jess has an obligation not to tell us
that.
Okay, anyway, I don't think do you have anything more to say about the topic of what is a reviewer?
I'm sure there's tons of things I could say, but sure, we'll wind it down. Is there
any snippets like of anything that totally different to anything we've covered?
Oh gosh, I think we're good. I think we're good today. We were like on point.
Yeah,
on point. Yeah.
On point.
I think we're both the way there.
Like point. No, this is a point.
I suppose the only thing that does come up a little bit is that, like, try not to be jealous of others' successes. There are always going to be people who are doing the same thing as you that's probably worse than you, or you think anyway, and they're doing way, way better and people love them and all that kind of stuff. And you're, you know, pouring your heart and soul and put hours into this thing and nobody seems to care. It's just the nature of the thing that, you know, some people are just going to fare better out of it than you. And you just got to accept that what you're doing is, you know, the best that you can do. And some people are just going to be better than you, and some people are going to be worse than you. But keep making it anyway.
Oh man, that's such a lovely thing to be like. Yeah, stay focused on yourself, stay true to yourself. Don't worry about the other people too much.
And be happy for other people too, because everybody deserves something nice to happen to them. Of course, it's hard when you watch it and you're like, "Oh God, why didn't nice things happen to me?" But like, damn it, just be happy for other people. You know,
People
let them enjoy it.
About favorites, which I don't know about you, but for me, this is such a difficult question because I could say, yeah, I love this person because of X. I love this person because of Y. And then it also, genuinely, you kind of start to feel, oh, wait, I need to talk about all these other things. I wouldn't be happy to give a name. I don't know about you, Antoinette.
I'll go with Tom Vassell just because it's the one that I would go, and you know, if I wanted to know more about a game, it's his video I would watch, and that's the honest truth, because I've never really got kind of Rado and Shut Up and Sit Down were great for a while, and then I've liked them less as time's gone on. But everyone just has different kind of things. Actually, No Pun Included are very good too. I don't always agree with what they say, but I really like how they come to their conclusions. They're very kind of methodological in how they do things, and they're very like, it's very clear cut and apparent what they're doing, and I like that a lot, even if I don't agree with their thoughts on things. So they're good as well. So yeah. And of course, there's like 10 million others I'm probably forgetting as usual. My favorite. What
was our favorite game to review? I've reviewed very few, but I enjoyed doing Energy Empire just because of the discourse with Alan Paul. That was quite fun.
Oh, my favorite game to review. That's really, really tough. Oh God, that's really tough. I'm still thinking, because it's probably going to end up being one of the Kickstarter games, because I make little intro videos for those, and they're always a bit of a blast. Favorite game to review? I might go with Possession from Crooked Tower. And I think that's because I saw the cover of the box, and they were just literally on Twitter shouting, "Would anybody review this?" And I saw the cover of the box, and I went, "Sure, I'll review it." And it showed up, and it was just this stunning set of cards, a really unusual game, and I was really, really surprised by it. And I got to make a really fun intro video where I was like some sort of demon. So I had great fun turning everything black and white and watching The Poltergeist and The Exorcist. So it was good, but also it was one that needed a lot of help with the cards and the rule book, and I helped a lot with that. I think my name's on that rule book, which is really surprising. I didn't know that, but it was cool to see that game kind of come to life. I thought it was that, so that's probably my favorite review. Yeah.
Now we have to recap. We've talked about so much. We talked about sharing our names. We talked about drawings. We've talked about ducks. We've talked about inquisitions, about practicing, you know, being a bit more to the point, starting the question, about having more people join the hobby, about Monopoly. You talked so much about Monopoly.
Yay.
About keeping it all intro and explaining terms for everyone. It's about that curation, right? Explaining your opinion. What is it? How to decide what bits to share. A good review is about meeting expectations. There is some technical qualities to it, like making sure that I'm starting to realize that I probably shouldn't drink fruit juice. Maybe water is better, because fruit juice seems to give my mouth a little bit more saliva, which is maybe not a bad thing for the talking when I'm doing that type thing. But we talked about lighting and all those sorts of things. We talked about relationships with publishers, how having that sort of connection is unavoidable. You get to know everyone in this industry, but you need to have that honesty. And again, Jones Family Game Night, I would genuinely love to have you on if that's a topic that I would like to explore. And we finished up with this lovely talk about jealousy and being true to yourself and priding what you do. And I want to say thank you so much to everyone. Thank you to everyone who's been watching. And most importantly, thank you to Antoinette. It's been super lovely. And I want to, I'm going down. Here we go. I'll just share all your links. But if you want to find me, I am, of course, stuffwithbez.com, stuffwithbez.bigcartel.com to find my stuff to buy. Twitter.com/stuffbez is where I share the most. Instagram.com/stuffbez, I share a picture every day-ish. You know, it's kind of like the highlights. And so twitch.tv/StuffAbez is where I stream every day at 10 a.m. UK time and Tuesdays 8 p.m. Facebook.com/thingsbybez is a thing, and stuffabez@gmail.com is my thing. And this is all of Antoinette. Sorry.
I live in many places. Yeah, you can just Google me. I think you'll find me. I'm a relatively unusual title. So
anyway, that is clickable on YouTube, and it's clickable in the Twitch comments, and it should be on the thing. This has literally been a stream. That is true.
Literally.
I am going to start literally kicking your arse if you keep that up around me. Not in a hard way, just like in a playful way, Chris. It was lovely to have you for whatever you could join in, and I do want to say very, very quickly, over to you. What are you up to? You can share only if you want to. So, do you want to share ambitions or hopes or exciting or trivial or important or just fun? Chris is expecting the already. Oh, thank you very much. This is so.
I'm soulless.
No, you're not. You're not soulless. You're a shining soul.
Oh, that's adorable.
I have done so in the past, and I will just look. It's kind of playful. Chris and I have a thing going on.
Clearly.
Oh, Jess can't wait to finish grading. Oh my god,
I miss grading.
Sates would like to literally kiss his arse as well. No, I think you've got to do it with. Thank you very much. If you want to share anything, I'm going to share that Bez and Friends Game Day is Saturday, which is tomorrow. I'm going to be doing an intro with a few people. I'm hopefully going to get to chat to Isaac Shalev this afternoon or tonight, because having them on in the afternoon, we're going to be talking about Ming Voyages, Dead and Breakfast, Q4U, Nano Muckle from me, and what am I missing? How Much Money from Chris Bocke. And we'll kind of be focusing on those 5 games. So it won't be like a big convention or anything. It'll be like me, those 4 people, and maybe a couple of other people. Like anyone that wants to join us is welcome. Go to stuffbybez.com/Discord. And I should have really had that in the links. But for my next streams, look at stuffabez.com/streams, and that will show you my calendar. Tomorrow's that thing, and it's already also got that. Share, spread the word if you have enjoyed this, and yeah, anything that you were looking forward to, Antoinette, that you want to share?
Oh, the couch that's arrived downstairs. I think I have a new couch in my sitting room, so I can't wait to go see. The dog stopped barking, so it's a positive. There's that, but also just the weekend in general. It's good, isn't it? Weekend.
Yeah.
Wish every day could be the weekend. So weekend would be nice. Yeah, good stuff.
Rob's not planning on kicking arses. Jess is going to work on lessons for next semester about games. Awesome.
Awesome, yeah.
And playing My City and building a Trojan horse with her son. That's lovely.
That so badass. Oh, I love it.
Oh, this is. I hope that whatever you do, and thank you, Al Brotnar. Thank you very much. So that's stuffbybez.com/Discord. And yes, thank you very much. I've heard of that. I'm up for that, but yeah, interested. Maybe we could organize a game for it in a couple of days. But yeah, I just want to say, really, there's one thing left to say. Do you have anything left to say, Antoinette?
I think I have emptied myself of stuff to say. We made it to the end.
It has been super, super lovely. I see that Amadeus Music is streaming. I am going to direct any Twitter Switch people to Amadeus. How do they spell it? Oh yeah, there is an underscore music. And there is only one thing left to do. And that one thing left to do is to say bye, 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 bye. This is a goodbye song. Bye, 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 bye. Thank you for watching along. Bye, bye, bye. bye. This is the end of the show. Bye. And now it's time to go. Bye. This is the goodbye song. Bye.
It was a good
Thank
song.
you for watching along. Bye. This is the end of the show. Bye. And now it's time to go. Bye.